Welcome to the week of VocTech, and welcome to our session with the UFI trustees. We have been looking forward to the session for a really long time. It's really exciting. We've got lots of things happening across the week, so I hope that this is the first of many sessions that you'll be joining us for. Today is an opportunity to hear our trustees talk a little bit about the strategy that we have in place for the next 5 years, but also their personal reflections on the things that technology can do to improve opportunities and access for learners and to improve skills across the UK. So I'd like to welcome, first of all, our chair, Gill, and he'll be able to kick things off.
Thanks, Rebecca. Hopefully everybody can hear me. All good. Yeah, thank you. And really, it's great to be kicking off Week of VocTech. Great to be here again. I'm always really, I think everybody who knows me knows how proud I am of UFI, and proud to be chairing a wonderful group of trustees as well. But I think with Week of VocTech as well, it's an opportunity for the whole of our sector to kind of share what's worked well. Think about how we can continue to come together to address adult vocational skills challenges, and to really tackle those challenges. And I think the Week of VocTech has in a way become an event for the sector. So this year, bigger than ever. Our challenge to Thomas is always how can we make this even better, and it's always going to be a bigger challenge because for all of you who were there last time, it was fantastic. This time it's even better, even bigger, and all of our strategic partners are going to be involved. So again, that's fantastic. What also gives me pride is looking at the impact of our work, and I think that's the other thing that the Week of VocTech enables us to do, is really to share some of the amazing things that's out there. We fund these things, but it's actually the projects, the companies that we both fund and invest who are actually making the difference. So it's great to be able to share that, with our colleagues, with our friends within the sector. We've got a full table of events. Tomorrow we've got our parliamentary reception. So for those who are coming, be fantastic to see you there. And obviously Thursday itself is the big day. We've got at least 3 events there, looking at various aspects of what we do, including our investment piece with UFI Ventures, and that all concludes with the UFI the VocTech showcase, which that's the opportunity for us all to come together, and see the impact that our projects are making. But back to today. So my fellow trustees and I, we're just great to be here. Hopefully we're going to make some sense. I don't always make sense, but hopefully we will. As I said, I'm super proud to chair this awesome group. So I think without further ado, let's greet them.
Thanks, Dom. And if you have any questions, please do pop them in the chat, and they'll come through to us, and we can pick them up. And we've had a form open for a couple of weeks, so some questions have already been submitted. So let's get started. Firstly, Sarah, Simon and Kirill, I'm going to come to you just because you haven't joined us for one of these sessions before, and it'd be really interesting to kind of hear your particular reflections on the work of UFI, and specifically kind of where you see your background bringing really strong support to our work. So I'll come to you, Sarah, first, because you're in the middle of my screen.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Rebecca. I really appreciate it, and so delighted to be able to join for my first trustee session. I'm relatively new to the organisation, so joined last year as a trustee. My background is I've worked in the talent and kind of HR space for the better part of 25 years. Won't reveal how old I am, but I've been around quite a long time and worked internationally as well as across the UK. And I'm currently the director of talent for Royal Mail, which is one of the largest employers in the UK. So this space around the future of work and the skills that we're all going to need is super important to my day-to-day life, but I'm really passionate about it, and that's what really kind of drew me to being part of the UFI family, is the work that we're doing around not just creating that technology, and I know we'll talk about this a lot today, around the deployment and the adoption, and how do we really get this the important tool that is VocTech into the ecosystem, really building those skills. So yeah, really excited to be part of the journey. And this is such an important mission, not just for us as an organisation and as a charity, but really for the country as a whole. So really important piece of work.
Thanks, Sarah. And I completely agree. Obviously, I do think it's hugely important for the whole of the UK.
Yeah.
Kirill, I come to you next.
No, thanks, Rebecca, and welcome everyone. I'm Kirill Pyshkin. I'm reasonably new, just like Sarah joined last year. Previously, I spent more than 20 years as an investment analyst and fund manager. My last fund was quite exciting. At some stage, it was the largest fund in the world investing in education and specifically focusing on education technology, which is why hopefully my experience is useful here at UFI VocTech Trust. I'm also for the trust member of the investment committee, and the work of the UFI Ventures is particularly interesting to me because we're trying to provide capital at different stages for businesses with a purpose. And this is quite unique given that we have such a narrow focus. And also what's unique about the work at UFI is that we also try to monitor the impact we deliver. That is unusual in the sector. So for me, again, exciting organization. Hopefully, I have relevant skills for this. And so far, the journey together with UFI has been very exciting. Glad to be here.
Thanks, Kirill. We're glad to have you. And I think it is really powerful being able to have that opportunity to have both grant and investment working together to achieve our mission. On which note, I shall come to you, Simon.
Great, yeah. So I'm Simon Greany, and I'm really excited to be part of UFI, and I've known about UFI for years. My background is in learning technology and strategy, and I founded a company called Elucidat about 10 years ago, which is a learning platform that's reached over 50 million people worldwide, mainly in corporate, but also in other sectors, charities and higher education. So I've worked with hundreds of organizations to kind of think about how they're using technology to engage people and drive real change. So I'm kind of much more on the kind of the side that UFI works with. And for me, it feels like we're at a real turning point right now with skills gaps and challenges in the workforce. You know, I know that tech can make learning more accessible and effective, but from what I've seen, the challenge is really kind of making sure it's being used in the right way to open up those opportunities. So what I would say, my experience of UFI is that they're not just kind of financially supporting organizations, they build a community. And that really comes across when I've met the organizations out there. And as a founder myself, I know it can be very lonely. So, you know, building that community, bringing people together, sharing ideas is so unique and important. So that's about me. Looking forward to the week ahead.
Thank you. And actually, our event on Thursday, bringing everyone together for the showcase, is always such a lovely kind of coming together of that community, and hopefully everyone's looking forward to it as much as I am. So thank you all. I'm going to come to some of the questions now, and I want to ask you first on kind of 2025 marked the start of a new 5-year strategy cycle. But what can we hope to see over that next 5 years? What do you feel has evolved from the previous strategy?
Thanks, Rebecca. I mean, firstly, I'd say our mission, we feel it's as important as ever. You know, I think for some of the reasons that colleagues have already said, especially Simon, you know, that there's a lot of change going on. I think vocational skills and using technology to unlock that is as important as ever. With the strategy cycle that we're in, it's not a huge change, to be honest with you. I think we're calling it more of an evolution. So it builds on the impact that we've already achieved, but looks at this wider landscape and looks at what changes are needed, really to, as I say, to kind of tweak, to evolve, to really to impact those, and looking to do that at scale. To looking to have that impact at scale. You know, a couple of points worth mentioning. I mean, you know, we know that there's a skill shortage at the moment, and we are in rapid economic transition. I think there's a lot of instability out there, So it's really important that everyone in the UK has that opportunity to develop those skills that they need. And I think in order to do that, we if we're equipping these people, that we need, I mean, in order to have that economic growth, we need a workforce who's got the relevant, correct skills, and they need those skills delivered at the right time. So all of us believe that vocational skills are the bedrock for this, the bedrock of the economy, and absolutely using technology appropriately, whether it's AI, whether it's VR and AR, whether it's technologies that currently we don't know about, but we need to harness in a way that's going to make these skills appropriate, deliverable, consumable at the right time, and actually makes delivery more impactful as well. All of these things, I think, are reasons why our mission is as important as ever. I think also from a lot of the work that we do in public affairs, there has been a sea change in the political landscape. Obviously, we've had a new government come in. But it does appear that there's a willingness to change. I mean, obviously, we saw the Prime Minister's announcements last week around looking at how we change government. We maybe make government more effective. And I know that's going to involve a lot of change. But there's been a lot of talk about using AI and using technology to help that happen, and unlock some of these regulatory process blockers. And it seems as if all sides, though, are in violent agreement about this. Which I think is a positive thing. I don't think we've really been in that space as we are at the moment. It's going to take a lot of time to make that change, and it's not going to be easy. But I think that there is an opportunity here, and I'd like to think that UFI, with our strategy, is in the centre of this, and we're there to kind of catalyse that change and bring a lot of the actors together. So I think, as I said, our approach isn't changing. We're going to continue building on what works. So the grant funding, the investment models, our partnership approach, and our public affairs work. But as I said before, it's all about adoption now. It's adoption at scale, and how can we deploy these things at scale? So what we do, we're able to help demonstrate by doing, to demonstrate to either it be the people who are going to use these technologies, deliver with them, or from a political and regulatory perspective, demonstrate what is the art of the possible and how these technologies could really impact that scale. And I said earlier, one of the things that one of our pillars is our strategic partnerships. We're never going to do this alone. UFI is only a part, but I think we're in a unique position to pull together and catalyze that effective delivery, effective transition. And yeah, it's not change, it's evolution.
Thanks, Dom. And I think Anthony Bravo is also joining us, who is also a trustee. And I'm going to hi Anthony, I'm going to put you on the spot the minute you've come on screen, because I just wanted to pick up on the question about the strategy over the next 5 years, and something that Dom just said about the kind of the art of the practically possible. And I know that kind of area of adoption deployment is a big passion of yours. I didn't know if you wanted to say something about kind of where you see UFI over the next 5 years supporting that.
Well, first of all, I'd say looking backwards rather than forwards is how I've seen UFI change in the time I've been here, which has been really exciting in terms of moving more from just helping and funding organisations to more of an ongoing institution. Because of the investments we made, we're going to find that we are going to be around for a lot longer than we initially thought we were. But what has excited me about the time with UFI is the real tools which have been supported, which actually make a difference to real life, if that makes sense. So being in the FE sector, what I've seen is lots of applications and tools which actually make the life of students, of staff in the FE sector better and more effective. So the partnerships which you speak about with organisations like the Association of Colleges, with organisations like GISC, what that does, it acts as a force multiplier. It makes the work of UFI that much more effective, and very much it's in alignment with what other people want to do. So my understanding of the partnership with the AOC is to build the capacity within vocational technology for colleges, and to improve the outcomes for learners, which obviously suits both the colleges and what UFI's objectives are. And as you know from earlier on today, I've got an obsession with one thing I really want UFI to help with is developing AI for the sector. There is a need for it, there's a want for it, and I think with the relevant partners such as the AOC, DFE and JISC, there will be the ability to produce something like that. So for me, I can see UFI continuing to make a difference to the sector, but making an even greater difference to the sector going forward. I don't know if that answers your question in a bit of a roundabout way, Rebecca, and I got my little plug in there, I'm afraid. Oh, I can't hear you.
Because you obviously see it in a different space, but isn't it sort of a different space to FE?
Yeah, I couldn't quite hear that, Rebecca. I was banging my speaker, but I'm afraid I couldn't really hear what you said there. Sorry about that. Could you say it a little bit and then get even closer?
Sorry, Ant, I don't think it's you. It's me. Didn't mean to deafen you.
Oh, wow. I had it turned up to maximum, put my ear next to it to try and hear you. Sorry. Say that again.
No, I just deployed the turn it off and turn it on again, and lo, it worked. I was actually just saying, I was saying thank you, and I actually what I'd like to do is kind of, I was going to come to Sarah to kind of build on it from sort of the wider space angle.
Yes, thank you, Rebecca, and I guess given the role that I do in my day job, obviously my lens is always going to be through that kind of employer lens, and how do we look at that skill building from that angle, and certainly as we think about deployment and adoption, absolutely engaging in the education sector is so important, and really kind of building it as part of that, but actually engaging with employers and understanding, some of their challenges and indeed some of the barriers there might be to deployment and adoption, particularly at scale. And I think for us, through that kind of corporate lens, I think there's absolutely an acknowledgement, and certainly when I talk with all of my peers, across the industry and other organisations, we all recognise that the skills of the future are different to the skills of today, and we talk about the jobs that are coming that don't even exist today. So that does make the skill development a little challenging when you're trying to use your crystal ball to work out kind of what will be here in 10 years time. But every organization is thinking about this, and there's been lots of recent research from some of the big consulting houses on CEO kind of perspective and what are the things that they're thinking about, and skills is in the top 3 of things that CEOs across the world are thinking around. So certainly, from my perspective, one of the kind of key things is always about that business case and how do we make it stack up in terms of the investment. And that is really around the return on investment. Can we show that the technology and the intervention is going to make a demonstrable difference and at speed? So that's the other challenge is and in fact I was literally having this conversation just before this session with some consultants around. It's always that balance between actually just hire for skills because that feels faster versus investing in your own people and developing the skills kind of in the job, as it were. So the speed thing really plays I think a big part in the thinking from a corporate perspective on adoption, but also that return on investment. So does it make good business sense? And of course, I'm sure everybody recognizes, in the current climate, organizations are being very thoughtful about their investment decisions and how we're spending money. There are cost challenges coming, in the year ahead. So So I think for any founder or anyone who's in this space and thinking about their particular tools and interventions and products, it is really important to think through the corporate lens and that business case and making that really kind of stack up, because I think that is the key barrier to scale, adoption across industry.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm hoping my mic's working now. But
Indeed.
Simon, I know you've got some thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, I guess I've been on the sort of vendor side there, helping organisations sort of design and roll out programs using tools. But I think something I've kind of learned over the years is that the tech isn't enough. I've walked into some organisations where they might have 45 versions of a similar platform being used across the organisation. So I think, the challenge that I always see is making sure it's practical, scalable, and something that people are actually going to use, like to solve the skill gap and to do something effective. Measurement, I think, is one thing that we talk about at UFI. It's certainly an issue that I see in organizations too. So again, UFI bringing people together, creating a community, tackling some of these challenges together, the digital budgeting thing as well, Rebecca, that you're kind of working on. These are all things that can be problems in isolated organizations, but bringing it together and solving that and understanding actually what needs to happen at scale across multiple organizations is just so important. So it just needs to be kind of solving real world challenges and making sure that really the technology isn't just existing, but it's delivering that impact.
I think it's a really good point, and I think it also ties back into what Sarah was saying about it's sort of the speed and scale piece. It has to happen in a way that is actually solving a problem rather than it just being sort of the tech for tech's sake. And I think that takes us neatly into thinking a little bit about our challenge program, the Skills for an Economy and Transition. So there's a question here about the program is it's nearly a year or over a year actually into delivery. So it'd be interesting to have an update on progress. So Dom, I don't know if you want to say a little bit about that.
I'll jump in there, Rebecca. Yeah. So just as a reminder, it's a 3-year program. It's looking at solutions to help address and support an economy, the skills for an economy in transition. So looking at what we can do there. And I think the interesting piece is it's both looking at national solutions, but also local place-based ones, and I'll come on to those in a sec. There's really 6 commitments though. So just to remind everybody about what we're doing within the challenge. We've already made the Skills Award, the VocTech Future of Skills Award. That was in 2023. So that was looking at really innovative ideas about what we could do to change and to challenge the system. I've mentioned the place-based collaboration projects, which is using local partners to deliver specific solutions to address local challenges, but ones that will then roll back up and be relevant and supported by potential national solutions. How we then support these and some of the funding that we attach to them. So we've got the VocTech Challenge Grant. So that's 1.5 million offered to 6 organisations to tackle those systemic barriers in adult learning. And we're looking for each one of those projects to support at least 1,000 learners. And that goes back to what I was saying before about scale. So how do we do this at scale? How do we really make an impact? And we can demonstrate by doing, and then looking to others to take that to further scale. We've also got a new investment fund. So a UFI Ventures Challenge Fund that was launched late last year, and we are close to making the first investment there. So again, that's quite exciting. All of this is supported by a program of evaluation. So we want to be able to demonstrate the impact, but how have we done it? How have we succeeded? And what are the learnings that we can take forward? And then there's the advocacy work, which is highlighting the importance of tackling low levels of participation in adult learning. So again, that talks to back what I was saying earlier about adoption. So how do we ensure that we can make that case for some of these practical solutions to get adults learning and to help upskill that workforce and make sure they really realise their potential. So there's a lot going on. I just want to focus back on the place-based collaborations, and as I said, it's looking at local partners, local solutions to address learner needs that they know most about in their areas, but ones which we can really apply on a national basis, and looking at where the learnings from those are. We've got 4 underway, so Aberdeen, Belfast, Newport, and Hull. So good cross section of the country. I'm super interested and proud about the whole project. That's my family is all from Hull. Both sets of grandparents lived in East Hull, so I have many happy memories of going there as a kid. But I've also, I've seen how people have looked down on Hull before, and I don't think that's fair, to be honest with you. I think it's had a lot of challenges, but really it's a city on the up, and it's really great how Hull is looking to come together to address some of these problems. So the collaboration in Hull, it's a collaboration between Hull College, Hay Volunteering, and other local stakeholders. And what they're looking to do is develop a suite of 40 micro credentials, but are focused on improving employability whilst also tackling these key barriers to learning. So why aren't people, able to do more? So again, I'd say I'm super proud of that one. It's something that's really close to my heart, but it's going to be exciting to see how these develop, and what national learnings we can take away.
Thanks, Don. And I think the work of the Digital Badging Commission is going to be super important in thinking about how micro-credentials and badging can have a huge and powerful impact both on confidence and motivation, but as well as evidencing skills more broadly. I'd like to kind of come back to something you said about the VocTech Challenge Fund, and sort of link to that. I'd just like to come to David and Kirill about how you see investment as a direct investment as an important part of achieving the UFI mission. So David, I'll come to you. Sorry, I shouldn't say.
Yeah, so my experience with UFI has gone back quite a few years, where we've been talking about the financial investments, and we're aware that all the investments we have impact, and in public markets where we invest, it can be challenging sometimes, and we want to always be on the forefront of investing sustainably and with mission in mind. I think where the ventures portfolio comes in, you can be much more granular, and it's really exciting to see some of those portfolio companies thrive, because you can, as you said, we've talked about the reporting, and it's challenging in the big public markets, whereas in these portfolios we can have much more insight into what these projects can do. Maybe I'll pass to Kirill on the ventures portfolio.
Sure, thank you, David. Exactly as you said, what excites me the most is the ability to deliver impact, and we believe that this impact, or we are more impactful if we are investing directly in the businesses, because it's arguably very difficult to do with publicly listed companies, where you are relatively small fish in a large pond. Here we have very close relationship with the businesses. We monitor the impact. We help the companies through their life to deliver this impact. Overall, the structure is really interesting, because UFI VocTech Trust is a trust which provides capital at all stage of the business, even before it became a business. So we can give you money if you just have an idea as a grant. Then if you are closer to starting a venture, we could invest at pre-seed stage, we invest at seed stage, and then we'll work with you throughout your journey, perhaps with a follow-up investment if it's delivering to our liking and if it is in line with the purpose. So if you have a business idea, come contact us. As long as it's aligned with our mission to get adults learning in the UK, hopefully we'll consider this. We monitor a large number of, so we screen a large number of proposals that we get, and then we make a small number of investments as a result. in terms of assessing those investments, we're trying to be as strict as we can in a commercial sense, but also, as I say, impact is important for us. So it's always this dual investment consideration. One, it has to be actually a business which stands on its own feet. Second, it has to have a measurable impact. And we monitor things such as, for example, number of learners touched, which is unique, and then we report on that. So, for example, when we look at the portfolio, we see both how the business is developing commercially and then how is it developing on the impact stage. So that's the fund one, and now, as Rebecca already said, we've launched a new fund. Hopefully, in our evaluation of the investments which we already made, we take the best learnings and understand what made this investment successful, and hopefully we'll transpose that onto making even more number of successful and impactful investments in the fund too.
Absolutely, thank you, Kirill. And I think it's really important for us to be able to demonstrate the value of the sector that we're behind, and we can do that. We can do that through the way we invest, but very importantly about the evidence we then provide to show how it has impacted things. I think it'd be really interesting to talk a little bit about how much we see the grant side of what we do as sort of an engine for us. And I think there's a question around, do we continue to see grants as an essential part of our mission? So I'll come to you, Jeff, on that piece around grants, if I may.
Thanks, Rebecca. For me, the grant is really important. It supports the support that UFI provides with the grants enables us to really support innovation and development across the whole skills and education sector. And Kirill was talking about perhaps the quantitative impact of things, but I also see the qualitative impact of how our grants, when they look at skills for work and the impact that they're making on those learners who are furthest from the market, who are furthest from opportunities. The Hull examples, as Dom has mentioned, is crucial in that it just demonstrates how the work that we do is impactful. It's about efficiency. It's also about a lot more effective learning. And when I look at the Newport activity and those emerging collaborations between colleges, local authorities and local stakeholders, you're getting a sense of how UFI support not just the education and training piece, but it brings those stakeholders together to work much more efficiently and effectively to create pathways for individuals. So I think the grant funding is vital for the sector. It ensures that we have very tangible, very practical and a user-tested understanding of what's happening right now, and actually what the challenges are, but also some of the support we can put in place to provide solutions. So we also use our grants to bring people together, those communities of practice of practitioners who are working in a way which they might not have worked in if we hadn't had that grant. So for me, the grant funding is important, it's crucial that we continue to build that and we use that for the benefit of the communities and also of education and training.
Thanks, Jeff. And I think, your point about kind of how it brings people together is really important, because I often think of our grants as helping to provide a safe space for people to do things that they otherwise wouldn't be able to, and that there's a hugely powerful kind of opportunity there, and we're absolutely committed to continuing to provide that. And I think also that links to the partnership piece, doesn't it? And working with others, and we work with a really broad range of external organisations, and we've just announced a couple of new partnerships. And I'd sort of like to come to you, Alex, to think about a little, why is that such an important part of what we do?
Thanks, Rebecca. I think it's one of the reasons that UFI's mission really speaks to me is it's a systems change organisation. Like, we're not just here kind of just throwing things out into the wind and see what kind of catches the breeze. This is about really how do we meaningfully, intentionally impact the system in the most effective way possible with the resources that we've got. And partnership working, therefore, is a natural extension for us to really amplify our mission. I think reflecting on I suppose everyone else's contributions in this, that there is such a breadth of the types of partnership working that we do. And to Kirill's point, because we're here to support your company before it's even formed as a company, and it's just an idea, it's a proof of concept, right the way through to it being a viable venture that's in kind of Series A fundraising. What that means is we're speaking to a variety of different motivations and kind of partners along the way. So whether that's through thought leadership, whether it's through research, right the way through to kind of knowledge sharing, or where we're looking for co-funders in terms of our ventures portfolio, that our partnership working shows up in a really different set of spaces and with a really unusual, I think, set of skill sets applied along the way. I think my favorite one personally is the partnership that's in place with the Resolution Foundation, because it takes us outside of I suppose the educational echo chamber and right into the kind of the macro space of what's that really a big heavyweight economic think tank that's focused on lower middle income households. Like, that's the real bread and butter of the households, the profile of the people up and down the country whose lives we want to support, and by helping them access better paid income, essentially, or just better, more supportive income, vocational work rather, through improved training that UFI can support. And I think what that does is it like I said, it takes us into a different space. And I suppose what that space is almost slightly unexpected, because we've got such a charitable mission. The motivation for organisation to be involved with UFI shows up in quite a few different places. So if you're a college, you want as many students as possible, and you want those students to go into meaningful employment. But if you're a local employer, you want people with the right skills. If you're a local government, you want your local economy to be working as well as possible. So like, actually, UFI kind of has to kind of put on a different hat for each of those different audiences and show up and in competent and authoritative, but also in listening mode for all of those audiences. And I think that collaboration and openness is part of the special sauce of UFI.
Thanks, Alex. And I think it's one of those really interesting things, isn't it, where you can see how all our partnerships are important and stand up on their own, but actually they all interlock as well. And you can really see why that set of partners is so important to have together. And actually, we announced today our partnership with the King's Trust, which is really, really exciting, and thinking about the kind of increasing youth engagement, reducing dropout rates, having better labour market outcomes, but particularly for those who have been facing multiple barriers. And that's sort of so aligned to our mission, and gives us such a fantastic opportunity to kind of do something that's more than the sum of its parts. So that's super exciting. It's not the only recent partnership, of course. Anthony, you mentioned earlier the AOC partnership. I don't know if you want to just say anything more about that.
Really, I'm really excited by this, because one of the things it's going to do, I really hope, is increase applications from colleges. I heard Dom going on about Hull, which is a great place. I was there the other week, massive journey, but I was with that Hull College in Deb Gray, and that is a wonderful example of how technology can actually impact on adults in their learning. So getting more applications from colleges across the board will be an absolutely brilliant thing to do as a result of that partnership. But overall, just generally increasing the amount of vocational technology being used in colleges, that also is going to be an outcome which will, again, change people's lives. It will build the capacity, as I mentioned earlier, because more and more people can share what they're doing to make themselves more effective. And overall, it just lines up completely with what UFI's objectives are in terms of improving outcomes for learners. Because yes, colleges do want that, but again, UFI want the best opportunities for the adults moving forward. And funnily enough, like the King's Trust, like was used to be called the Prince's Trust, again, that can help really disadvantaged people, because colleges are known generally for being a second place or a last chance saloon for those people who at adult levels haven't succeeded first time round at school, but have an opportunity to actually progress again in the future. So I'm so excited by this partnership, because I think it's absolutely a wonderfully brilliant idea, obviously, probably because I'm in the sector and I love UFI. So those two coming together is perfect. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Anthony. And I'm glad I always like to hear about you loving UFI. It makes me very happy. We've had a few questions come in as we had the form open earlier. So I'll run through those. I think that the easiest way to do it is just let me know if you want to jump in on the answer. So the first one is from Sean, who says, given the abandonment or recasting of equality, diversity and inclusion policies by companies like Facebook, Amazon and Goldman Sachs, what will trustees do to ensure that vocational training needs of all learners continue to be met? I don't know if anyone wants to jump in on that one.
I'll jump in, Rebecca, on that one.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. It's out there now in the domain. Within education, we're talking largely about fairness and opportunity for all. So regardless of shifts in corporate policy, those fundamental principles remain for us in education. It's about opportunity for all our students and the recognition that all our students are different, So as trustees, our responsibility is to ensure that vocational education remains accessible and beneficial for all learners, and that staff have the tools to deliver that learning in the way that's appropriate to those individuals. So as trustees, we'll continue to prioritize diversity as a core value within our training programs. It's very much around ensuring that we have approaches that meet the needs of the UK economy. A diverse workforce strengthens industries and innovation. It's been proven time and time again. To have different thinkers around the table ensures a better product, a better outcome. So as trustees, we want to make sure that employers and our learners have the tools to make those things happen. And as trustees, we should be ensuring that our policies and our practices safeguard equal access to training for all learners. This includes things like, reviewing the curriculum offer, perhaps even reviewing the funding priorities. So, albeit, we may have a shift away from what people are calling EDI, the concept of fairness and equality of opportunity still remains within the further education sector.
And Jeff, if I could maybe come in and echo from the corporate lens, I couldn't agree with you more. And certainly when I talk with other leaders across other businesses, certainly those that operate in a kind of global scale and have a big presence in the US, or indeed are headquartered in the US, are certainly taking a view around how they might talk about their activities in the DEI space and some of the things that they're doing to ensure that equality of access and that they are building, talent pipelines that are really representative of the communities that they serve, etc. The sentiment is unchanged. Everybody still recognises the importance of it, and due to political reasons, might take a different view on how they talk about it. But certainly, every business leader I talk to understands how important it is, and still displays a real commitment to ensuring that we are giving access to those furthest from opportunity, and that we are creating kind of fair workplaces, and of course skills and those particularly employability skills are so important, particularly from a social mobility lens. That is still very much on the agenda for many organizations that I talk with. So I feel like, yes, we've absolutely got a role to play in continuing to champion that, but I don't necessarily see that changing from a kind of corporate perspective. I think organizations still understand that, to your point, it's been proven time and time again that diverse teams outperform. So I think the commitment is definitely still there, but we've got to be real kind of, carriers of that banner and making sure that we're baking that into everything that we do and what we invest in.
Could I just add to what Sarah said as well? Because we mustn't forget we're not in America, and this government has actually made a commitment to inclusivity, and that's also been evidenced in the latest Ofsted changes, where inclusivity will be something which they're looking at, how inclusive we are of all our learners. So although we often follow the dog, we don't have to be completely dominated by it.
No, quite.
So, no, we don't, and thank goodness. It's and it sort of, you're right. It's our core ethos, isn't it? That is that we talk about the best chance of success for our projects. We're very focused on making things more equitable and ensuring that what we do is fund technology that helps those who are furthest from opportunity. And I don't see that changing for any reason, because it's of course it's fundamentally a good thing, but it's also a kind of economically a good thing, and it would be madness to do anything else. Thank you. The next question is around the defence spending. So there's a question from Daniel, and he asks, what impact will the likely ramp up in defence spending in the UK have on the skill sets the employers need, and therefore the vocational training landscape more widely?
I can take that if you want.
Thanks, Kirill.
We've written quite a lot about it, which is why I'm aware of the topic, and I know why Daniel is asking this. For example, with my Chief Investment Officer hat on, European defense sector has been one of the best performing sectors this year. For example, one prominent company called Rheinmetall, a big defense manufacturer in Germany, is up over 100%, 122%, I've just looked up. And another one called ThyssenKrupp, up 128%, and that's just this year. What it means is that it is increasingly important to get skills which are required by those companies, and they may be slightly different from the new economy skills. So this is probably more hardcore engineering, people who can tell the difference between steel and cast iron. But the good thing is that UFI is sector agnostic. We try to give people skills which would help them to get to improve their employability in old economy as well as new.
Thank you. And yes, we've always said that we want the skills that people learn to be skills that they can use in work, and that means that the jobs have to be jobs that are available and that are needed. So one of our team, Maureen, always talks about being skills that are valuable and valued, and it remains at our heart. We've had a couple of questions that are around the use of AI, and I think they're largely sort of, maybe I've got this wrong, but I would say they're sort of the same question about how do trustees see AI impacting adult learners. And I know you touched on it a little bit, Anthony, but anyone who wants to jump in on that kind of AI and adult learners, but I'll let you go first, Anthony.
Thank you. As you could tell, this is something so close to my heart. I'm working in a college where we're seeing teachers' workloads be reduced by up to 5 hours a week by the use of AI. We're seeing in other colleges how AI is being used in chatbots funded by UFI to support learners in knowing the simple things like when their lessons are, helping them with their homework, even when they've got social problems, who to approach and ask, even when they've got financial problems, how do you deal with an overdraft or bank rates? What do these different things mean? And then in other colleges, we're seeing AI help with all the back office work, with the administration, with large scale data analytics, with following the student journey throughout the time the students are in the college, and even identifying those students who are potentially at risk because of not doing their homework or missing lessons and things like that, who may be at risk, unfortunately, of something quite serious like suicide occurring. So there's so many ways AI can impact on the further education and the tertiary sectors. As Rebecca knows, I'm obsessed with having a little bit more of a unified front on this, because at the moment it is like the Wild West. colleges who are willing to try something are coming out of the caves and are trying different things with ChatGPT, with Azure, with Gemini. And some of them are going to get it really wrong, and it's going to cost them a lot of money. Whereas the majority of colleges are afraid to do that, and so don't want to come out. And because they're not coming out, they're actually missing out on what's available. So with UFI, I've got this obsession with there being some sort of AI skeleton, for want of a better word, which can be built by support from UFI, support from GISC, validated by the AOC, Association of Colleges, which can then be given to colleges, which obviously they don't have to pay for, which is what Amazon explained to me. But having done that, they can have a framework which is safe and secure and actually can work, rather than having to all invest in trying to develop something. So that is my absolute obsession. We're working on it with various parties, and that I believe is the way forward, to have something which isn't restrictive. If you've got a college who wants to really build upon it and improve it, they can do, but at least have something which any college can take and start with. If you're not using AI at the moment, then you're already behind. If you're in the educational sector, I can guarantee you every single learner is using AI as part of their answers. The examining bodies have got to look at this because AI is being used, and you can't tell students not to use AI because they will use it. And you've got to look at different ways of assessing their learning. And you've got to think about how you can still show that they've got deep understanding of what they've done without the written essay, because the written essay is no longer valid for what it was used to be used for. Sorry about that rant, but I think AI is so exciting. It is changing the world. It's definitely changed my world. So I
100% agree with that, Anthony. If I may jump in, I think something you touched on there, AI's here. AI's been here for a long time now, and I think if you look at a lot of the teaching, learning tools, they will include AI elements anyway. I think there's what needs to be demarked in a way is what do we mean by using chatbots, using things like ChatGPT and others, whereas there are other tools that are actually using this technology which are hugely beneficial, which are done in a really kind of regulated and safe way. I do feel, and I echo your point, that there's a fear amongst not only colleges but other providers, especially those in the funded space. And I think we do need clarity from government there, which I think hasn't existed sometimes. What this clarity needs to be able to make happen and make real is the ability to innovate, but without fear of, or if I innovate, I'm then going to be closed down or I'm going to be seen as a pariah. We absolutely need that ability. So I think there's the understanding of what do we actually mean by AI on all the different potential usages and benefits of it. Obviously being aware of the risks, but being able to work in an environment where people aren't afraid to innovate. And I think that would be my call to government.
Just to build on that, Dom, I think that what it also sets up is a really interesting conversation that's going to evolve over the next decade of really, like, given how much the likes of AI and so on is able to shortcut for us, what really are the skills that are needed? So how much information do you need to retain as an individual versus how well do you need to be able to use the systems at your disposal? Those are two very different skill sets. And the irony is that traditional schooling focuses very much on how much information can you retain. So it's quite existential actually in terms of what it's asking for a future workforce as well as the next generation coming through.
Yeah, communication, team building, problem solving. Those are the real skills which are going to be needed in the future, not the technical skills, because many of the technical skills, although if I speak to my head of finance, he tells me, do you really want your accounts done by AI? And I don't at this moment in time, but those technical skills are going to be less important, but you've still got to have this core understanding of what they're doing, because the trouble we're going to have is AI is going to be making decisions, giving you information. And if we forget how that information is worked out, we become the slave of it. And there are many cases of what we call AI hallucinations, where it tells you what you want to hear and you think that that's true, and it's not. It's just lies. So you've got to, one of the things we're trying to teach our students is how to differentiate between what is true and what is false, because nowadays on AI and on social media, it's so hard to see the difference between them, and you have to learn to question absolutely everything you see, which is out of the normal, and that is a skill. And obviously the whole AI prompting, that's an industry which I never even knew could exist, but I know from my personal experience, being able to prompt AI effectively is going to be one of the most important skills going forward, because it completely changes the quality of the output from the AI you're working with. I'll be quiet.
I think that's just the important point. It's what we're not saying here. We're giving people free hits and AI allows them to cheat. Actually, there's as many skills needed to get it right and understand the information that's coming back that you're receiving. So you're not only inputting the correct question, you're also then able to analyze correctly the answer that's coming out. What the AI is ultimately doing is allowing it's taking away mundane tasks that why should we be doing those? Why shouldn't people be thinking in a more analytical, productive way? And I think if we can frame things in that way, I think that'll go a long way to helping. Appreciate we're probably over time now. Apologies, Simon, but
sorry.
Maybe one last point there. Yeah.
I was just going to say on the side of the software companies, I'm mentoring tech startups, and AI brings about opportunity to get products to market really quickly, to solve really niche problems now in that tech ecosystem, so that there can be a lot more vocational learning technology out there put out really quickly. So I think that's on the other side a real big opportunity right now.
Thanks, Simon. Apologies, I was working to a 1:30 finish rather than a 1:15. So thank you all for sticking with us, and thank you for a really interesting conversation. And I think we probably could have talked about AI until 1:30 tomorrow, so and still not resolved everything that we might even want to touch on. So thank you to all the trustees for a fantastic conversation, and I hope everyone really enjoyed it. And if anything has kind of prompted further questions, please do drop us a note, because we're always interested in people's insights and thoughts. And that just leaves me to say, enjoy the week of VocTech, and hopefully we will see many of our audience in the real world over the next week. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you all.
Thanks, Rebecca. Thank you.